Okay, we're gonna try this thing.
Okay, it looks like we're live.
It looks like we are, because it's giving us the option to end the stream, but
yeah.
we got a lot to do.
I know. So, let's see, who's the drum roll? Who is first? Let's see here.
Okay, well.
Oh, I see. I got a notification, which is rare.
Wow.
Oh, hey, Mary D. There she is. Not that she had any insider information. And KK and Robbie and Benzomatic, you're first. I did not have your number to text you, Benzomatic, but you did really good for not having that heads up. Hey, Jason O's, great to see you. Hi, Inspire Me. Good to see you. Wonderful, 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 wonderful. Oh, all the hearts. Isn't that nice? Look at that. So
yes. And please do make sure you guys are subscribed. Thumbs up. What's that thing called? Hype, if applicable. It seems that not everybody always has a hype button available.
You get 3 a week, and if you hit the thumbs up, it usually shows down there on the lower right part of the video. And let's see, Tracy needs lots of positive vibes. We can do that. And while we're talking about that, I do want to send out heartfelt prayers to everyone who needs it. Plus, Steve and Lori and our family member is going through some things, helping some people. And I just want them to know that they are loved, they are supported. So please send out prayers. It's a very difficult situation some folks are going through, and everywhere else in the world too. But I wanted to highlight that because they need some extra love.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So I made mention earlier this week about having to get a greenhouse up, and we had a couple days to do it, and we just got it done under the gun because it's going to be like 23 degrees here overnight, which is kind of unusual for us. I mean, we don't really get too often below freezing, so a full 10-12 degrees below freezing, that's a cold streak for us. We have like 3 nights like that. So yeah, and it was one of those greenhouse ordeals. You know what I mean? The manufacturing process where they cut things in the wrong place and things don't line up right, and it ended up taking us like, I don't know, 6 hours or something. It was crazy. It was crazy, but that's what we've been doing, and we pulled plants into it. And so I'm hopeful. I think we're gonna, we should probably have tomatoes and peppers throughout the winter coming from our own greenhouse. So that feels good.
Good. It looks like we're getting a nice full room. We have some really good stuff. We have some, it's more of an energetic update for 3i Atlas that I've been getting in, so I want to talk about that today. There's plenty of news out there. We know what the 3D stuff is, and then the 3D stuff is really fascinating. But we have some more behind the scenes stuff that is trickling in, and I think we're all in a place where we all kind of know what's going on, but our loved ones don't. And how are they going to react when there is this rather large awakening that I think in some ways might be forced to the masses?
I wasn't going to necessarily go down what Rosemary's talking about. There was a big event that transpired. It's all over the news. It is exactly, really, again, what the polar psychics saw. There would be an event that would give you the rationale for why something else is going to happen. And this is exactly what's happened. So, we pray for peace. We don't get pulled into the conflicts of the world because we recognize the conflicts of the world have a big purpose. And ultimately, there's a lot more channels coming out right now that some of them are even seem to be AI generated. We stumbled on a channel yesterday, and I was like, how did they do this? Because, they said things that should get them totally ostracized, pointing out that there's really only one system in play that uses these military conflicts as legitimization it does a lot of things. They do a lot of things. And, one of the things that you see Elon talking about is population decline constantly, a big collapse coming on. Yeah, if we'd stop shooting at each other for a while, we could probably rectify that. And if we actually had clean water, healthy food to eat, if our soil wasn't depleted from very, very poor farming farming ways, tactics, again, we could learn, I think, we could learn the most from the farthest back in time we could go. That's going to give you the clues as to how do you navigate living in a Bronze Age? Because all we've had is living in a Kali Yuga, a dark age where we didn't have a freaking clue. Well, some people always knew things were off. And other people don't have a clue anything's off at the moment.
I know. And are things going to get better? We were talking about that on another show. Please go over and sub to our friend Nina the Mystic. She was kind enough to have us on her show to do a video, and we touched on that. And times are changing, and are things gonna get better? Well, they're gonna be open. Information is coming out, and what that looks like, I don't know. But in a Bronze Age, you can now see those things that you thought were hidden. And that's going to be across the board. So what does that look like?
Yeah, I think, again, so many people are having deeper, wilder, more vivid dreams. It's another sign of going into a new age, and we are in a new age. And so it's all going to be exposed. AI is archonic and accelerating the dehumanization of humanity. What if the ultimate AI truly is the ultimate Satan? Again, Satan's the adversary. So, when you look at that, I don't know. Did David already put that show up? Adapt 2030, I didn't see. But we had fun with David. We always have fun with David. I mean, we could talk for hours, and we have talked for hours. Many times, we've had conversations going on to the wee hours of the night at times with David. Again, David Adapt 2030. He's a lot of fun and very, very wise, insightful guy. But yeah, this is all part of the new paradigm. This is what we had gotten from the guides. If you remember, we had gotten that the Kali Yuga officially ended with the eclipse that happened on April 8th, 2024. And some, I've seen comments saying, can you prove that? Where is that in writing? It's not in writing. This is what we've gotten from our guides. Although I have seen many more channelers out there that channel information like we do, saying the same thing now, not necessarily the exact same date, but saying, back there in 2024, somewhere around the first to third quarter of the year, that's when it happened, and we shifted into a new era. So, a lot of people are picking up on that. It's a new life here. I mean, everything's changing. And the myths and legends of the past that we used to look at as silly superstitions, you know what? It's going to be flesh and blood, literally, for people to discover these things. It is absolutely, it's going to be mind-blowing for a lot of people. And there's a lot of people that want to hold on to their paradigm because it gives them comfort. It's what they grew up with. And, if you blow up somebody's paradigm, their whole way of looking at the world, that's an earth-shattering thing to happen. And it could terrify people. I think there's a lot of terrified people out there right now. Peter, Texas, Poland. I'm assuming you're still over in Poland, and I know Peter knows what the Polish psychic has been saying. Again, Peter's the one that introduced us to the Polish psychic, who we do like and enjoy. Again, Krzysztof Czakowski. He was saying that there's going to be an attack on Iran from that other place in the Middle East. You know which place. And, that will get going another conflict over there. And there's going to be probably 5 or 6 conflicts that pop up over the next year.
Yeah, I know Robbie was talking about being ripped off, and I think that AI is very, very capable and probably will be gaslighting. I don't trust it for a second. Of course, it looks like a mistake. I don't trust it.
And I hate to go off and ask a question, Peter. Christoph has seen Poland getting divided into three parts. Do you know which part you reside in, and is that one of the better parts to be in, according to what the Polish psychic has gotten? Because he does see Poland divided into three different segments as part of a deal that's going on. Seems there's a lot of deals that the public is never told about, never, ever, ever, but are actually happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, they always kind of let us know a little bit later, and they give the illusion of control, and we all are starting to know and understand that. I really think if you focus on yourself, you control your immediate surroundings just to keep yourself from going crazy in the world's events.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we wanted to touch base on here is this. Have you guys seen any of these billboards popping up? Look at that. That's some marketing going on. All will be disclosed. Spielberg, 6/12/26. Yep, the sequel. Why in the world? Wasn't it, what was it, 77? Close Encounters of the Third Kind came out, and they wait, almost 50 years for a follow-up? That seems strange. I mean, isn't it always about marketing and everything? All about making money in this world? Well, why would you wait so long to make some extra cash, right? Well, again, we understand the cash comes out of thin air. It's all manufactured. They can make as much as they want. Oh, what an iconic movie it was. Absolutely. Close Encounters was mind-blowing for a lot of people because we didn't grow up understanding the fact that we're not alone. I see tons of people out there saying, you know what, they're interdimensionals. In other words, they're demons. They're not aliens. They're not extraterrestrials. And, again, that's showing that you don't want your paradigm being blown. You can't handle it. Because, that's why people will say these statements. They'll say, again, anything to verify whatever it is they believe in. So if they're believing, again, from a biblical perspective, they want to defend that, and they want to negate anything that could, shatter that perspective. But really all you have to do is just look to the original sources, understand, again, all the facts, all the books that were in circulation before the book burning began, and everything that didn't go along with the theology that was to be adopted was wiped out and erased from history as much as they could. But we have gotten copies as time has gone on of other texts, and we've had those Sumerian texts. They've been analyzed. There's actually more of them than biblical texts, and they give a fuller picture. But they're still given the picture from the victor's perspective. That's the key. That's the key. So people have connected the billboard that came out with this crop circle that appeared so many years ago. Could it be that somebody was giving a message? Could it be one of the visitors, whether they be interdimensional, extraterrestrial, inner Earth? Maybe they are some of the mer people that are under the sea that is being disclosed now. There is so much being disclosed now. And what is it really telling us? It's telling us that our myths and legends, they weren't just little stories to keep kids in line and obeying. No, they were true remembrances of what people went through in many cases.
Looking at this, and this came out a long time ago, as did that movie, but I like to look to see what happened after. I think, the sightings, UFO sightings went up. People started to feel a little more comfortable to talk about things that were going on in their lives, and it's been such a huge cover-up. Those who have actually been in the presence of other beings that, that we don't know to be human, experiences that we've had, that just exploded after this information hit the scenes. And now we have Three Eye Atlas coming in to do what it's going to do, and that's going to create a lot more change. And now we have this movie coming out. How much longer? I think the only way that it could be that someone could think that there were no extra ultra dimensionals is if they just simply don't want to know.
Yeah, again, the indoctrination, we might call it a religious education, but ultimately everything from standing and pledging allegiance, that's indoctrination. And, think about how the system wants you to stand and pledge allegiance. Whatever country, you're in, whatever flag it is too. Maybe it's not a pledge of allegiance, but it's some sort of other thing that you're to recite, to memorize, and to basically allow to divide us. So we don't look at ourselves as brothers and sisters, as literally co-creators here on this planet that are, working together to co-create a better reality. No, it's got to be survival of the fittest, Darwinian evolution, kill or be killed, eat or be eaten. That's exactly what this system cultivates. They hate it when we look at each other with compassion, with love, with good intentions.
Mm-hmm. They don't like that. So for us to come together, this is why I love coming on the lives and bringing everyone in, because I know our energy is different. There's so many people who are awake and understand in this room, and we're making a big wave of change out there every time we do this.
Yeah, and as Mary Moore was saying, a lot of people do rebel and leave the religion. I also think, I take my own family lineage. My father, again, he was brought up in a Catholic school, and he would tell me that he was always getting the back of his head hit, or they would take rulers and rap you on the knuckles. There was real physical corporal punishment for not paying attention intently, and it was conditioning, because it was so strong in his childhood that he truly, even as an adult, he didn't speak unless you were spoken to, because he grew up in that environment, and that really, affects us.
Hi, John and Jen. I'm glad to see you. Good. I'm so happy to see everyone here. Diana, George, Rip the Jacker, great to see you. Cortez, Mary Moore, great to see you. Hi. Hey, how you doing? Paul, great to see you. Thanks for stopping in.
Yeah, so I don't know how we could do it, but if Cortez has free tacos for all, that sounds good.
That sounds great. Hi, Elantra.
Yeah, Chris says the nuns hit him often too. Hey, Elantra. Christina, love, good to see you. Ever saw Hellier? No, I don't think we've seen that. But, and high up there in Michigan, great to see you guys, Annie. Awesome to see you. So what do we make of this? They're showing us images here that seem to, okay. Spaceship, Three-Eye Atlas, dramatically changes color as Earth approaches, as the Earth approaches just days away. In fact, today's the 14th. The closest approach, I think, is 19th, right? So the world continues to be left baffled by the comet known as Three-Eye Atlas, coming to its closest point with Earth. One boffin says it's anything but normal. And how about the color change? Let's see. Okay, here we go. Now, as further imagery comes back from our satellites and space, pictures have shown a huge shift in the object's color. This comes as Earth prepares for its closest brush with the interstellar visitor. Theoretical physicist Avi Loeb, and a lot of people don't look at Avi and take him seriously because they feel he has an agenda. And, I got to say, whenever somebody is coming out of a big school like Harvard, MIT, or, Yale New Haven again, you have to realize that, it's the creme de la creme. And don't we have fraternities and, sororities? And don't we have a tendency to see a lot of top-level politicians, for instance, come out of some of these places? Yeah, this is one of their primary recruiting centers. So, it's only natural that you should be a little suspicious of people from the biggest, most affluent schools, because, again, it's just follow the money, guys. Follow the money.
It is. That's the thing.
Very interesting. So, again, he's been pushing the idea that he didn't say definitely, but he said possibly, and could be a ship and could be something other than just a simple icy rock. Well, now you have it glowing green, but also they were saying that it was glowing red. I don't remember anybody seeing it as red at any point. It was green and blue, mostly going back and forth between those two colors. And I think if you're talking green, then you're probably going to be neutral if you know the Hopi prophecy. But when it's blue, that makes you think more about Blue Kachina, Hopi prophecy. And if it's red, well, red is the destroyer, right? Red is the destructive Kachina. And, are they trying to get across? I guess my point is, are they trying to make us afraid that it's turned into the red Kachina? That maybe it's Blue Kachina and red Kachina all in one. Again, it's always about keeping us in fear and keeping us divided.
They do like that. The information that came up this morning was kind of interesting. I mean, it wasn't a lot, but it was enough to make mention as far as 3i Atlas goes. What is it doing? And the guidance this morning is they told me that they are sending in polarity to help stabilize humanity, which I feel is quite large. That they did not go into detail on that. They just said they're sending polarity, because what I think it is, I think it's the shifting of balance. We are so out of balance, and when it comes past Earth and it's on its way out, they said there will be certain energetic spheres that are left in our atmosphere. And when we reach a certain frequency, or people, when they reach a certain frequency, they're going to be made aware of these spheres. And what is that going to be? I'm not sure. I didn't really have time to sit and go deeper in that. This is just preliminary information that I got this morning, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. Or I could go in and get more information, but I thought this was interesting. I wanted to get it out there because things are changing so fast. If I can sit and do a whole channeling, but I felt this information, the surface information, was the most important, and maybe it strikes each of us differently.
Yeah, absolutely. So I saw a comment saying they're getting ads for NASA. There shouldn't be any ads popping up right now because I didn't monetize it. So there should be no ads. But I know, again, when you get ads, that's personalized. David talked about that 2030 adapt, that the ads are custom to you. So whatever you've been searching is what they're going to be showing you. And that should be across the board, whether you're looking on YouTube or even on other websites. It's something that they're doing. And who said it about the mood ring, that this comet's a mood ring? That was a great observation, right? That's exactly, that's insightful there. That's pretty good. This is just interesting that when you look at the stats again, it has some things to it that just defy what a comet should be. And, at the same time, there's a few things that look in line. But, I think you got to go within. You got to listen to what does your gut say, because that's the one thing the system never really tells you, is to trust your gut, trust your intuition. No, I mean, it's always trust us, trust sales, trust, again, Whatever it is, the scientific community, well, when the scientific community has a financial interest in certain things, you know where it goes.
I know it's that, and yeah, this information that I got, I know that it goes deeper. I know it goes much deeper, especially when they said they are leaving us polarity. That was really interesting, because if you look at polarity, it's, it's good versus bad, light versus dark, right versus wrong. To me, it was it's push-pull, it's craving and aversion, it's attachment and resistance. It's about change, you guys. I mean, this is really, really big change. So when it says it's going to be left behind, I'm really kind of stuck on that one right now.
Everybody is unique, again, fractal of the one source. And when you look to people that are channeling the information, like this one says, the being known as Three-Eye Atlas is not a comet. It's a plasma intelligence pulsing its presence through ratios, rhythms, and harmonics. Its language is not speech, but binary pulses, rhythm patterns, and sound codes, communicates through music. The interesting thing was when I pulled this up, Cindy saw it, and there was a time when she was taken up in a ship and saw very much like this, the type of imagery. And it is familiar to me too. I remember seeing stuff scrolling by when out of body and up on what I would take to be a 5D ship as well. Again, one of the reasons why we are so convinced of things is because we've had direct experiences. But I would venture to guess at least 10% of the population has, and it's probably way higher than that.
Looking at this too, this was when this happened to me, I went up there, and that's what I remember seeing. It was like a white light with all kinds of writing on it, and in my soul, my sphere of energy, I knew that there was a reprogramming going on, and that light was being sent into my energy field, and this really just struck me like a lightning bolt when I saw it.
So Peter is asking, and I see Diane, Susan Donahue's in the house. Great to see you. So it'll have its closest approach on December 19th. Any idea what may happen? I would not be surprised if there's something that happens that gets attributed to it, but has nothing to do with it, if you know what I mean. In other words, kind of a false flag, as I check to see. We have 117 with us now. You usually make a statement like that and you drop 20 people right away with the algorithm. But we're holding tight at the moment. So, yeah, I would say some sort of false flag I would think is likely. Now, what type of false flag could they do? Well, I think again about, some of the things that have been put out there by different people throughout the years as far as part of the plans. We talked about Albert Pike, 3 World Wars, 1871, this statement that he made to a 33rd degree Mason, actually the person that brought him into the Masonic lodges in the first place, saying there would be 3 world wars. Well, yeah, we do know that it looks like we're right on the edge of that third one. Let's hope it doesn't manifest. Let's hope they're not able to get people to take part. Got to put that energy out there. But another thing that they've talked about too is asteroid hits, or something like an asteroid hitting the planet. Again, the Younger Dryas period, the Carolina Bays phenomenon. We've done multiple videos on this. There's literally thousands of impact craters all across the U.S. There's tons of impact craters all across the entire world that we know of, which again is not the totality of the world. There are definitely places that are on Earth, Gaia, that humans have not been allowed to go.
No, they won't let us there. They won't let us go there. Some people, I feel we can always go there astrally. I think the technology we're looking at could be, maybe it's AI versus what the human body can do. And I saw someone in there made a comment about what if AI means alien invasion? What if it does?
Yeah, I asked Grok the other day, so what's the big deal with AI? What's really better about it? As it's just another computer program, but it's a computer program that's simulated. It simulates the way humans act and think. And yet, watch what's happening. Look at what's happening all around us. Everything is like data gathering humans, which is not something that you would think other humans would be necessarily fascinated with. I mean, there are people that are really into studying human behavior, for predictive reasons. Again, knowing what people are going to do just out of their natural tendencies. And, at the same time, everything reeks of the fact that the entities that are really controlling things behind the scenes are not Homo sapiens sapiens. It just is the beyond obvious logical explanation for all the craziness that we see.
I think finally that's coming to light. Our dear family member, Wayne is talking about AGI, and I really do believe that is a technology that did not come from humans. I think it's beyond our ability to comprehend, but this is what we've been talking about for so long, is the things that go on in this world are not coordinated by humans. They never have been. They've been coordinated by energy that's out of our sphere of even understanding. This is just way too much. And here are us little bitty humans are down here saying, oh, please, it's just us little bitty humans. We just haven't been shown our power. We have not been taught. So when we're born, they are so quick to throw us into school, preschool, kindergarten, just, get us away from our parents, to keep our parents from raising us. Because within that, if you're with your parents and your parents are stable and they're strong and they're not traumatized and they love you, they can raise incredible beings. And that got me thinking about indigenous tribes, where the children would run and play and they would be watched by a group of elders, and the elders would pick out with each child, okay, what their specialty is going to be, and they would train that child throughout their life, whether it be hunting, tracking, whatever that was. This is a person with a lifetime of supreme knowledge that has been given down through generation after generation after generation, and it's in the DNA, and now they're even honing that. So we are incredible beings, but there's a force that's up there that knows that we need to be kept under wraps, or we might be able to do things that it doesn't like.
Do things that it can't do in many ways. Listen to this. This is U.S. Army veteran Patrick Riley. Okay, he's going to share some information.
He showed us the shoebox. He had the pictures of people being executed, but he also had a mask in the shoebox. And he pulled this mask out, and the mask was a human face, but the human face had the eyes in it, and it was warm. And the back of the mask had an imprint that looked like scales. And so this was very bizarre, and the eyes on the back of the side of the mask were not for my eyes, I know that. So it was something that, I can honestly, I'm a firm believer in Socrates' principles of, true wisdom comes from knowing that I know nothing. I don't know what that mask belonged to. I don't know if it was alien or a race that's maybe been on the planet since prehistoric eras, or some secret government project. But I do know that was much more advanced than any technology I had ever seen. I don't think we could have reproduced that. I don't know how it was made. It was basically a living mask.
What do you make of that, guys? What do you make of that? A living mask, again, pretty wild stuff. And if it was just this person and you'd never heard anything else like that at all, then you could just kind of discard it and say, well, he had a bad trip. But the reality is, if you look to tribes in Africa, for instance, that tell you everything was great on Earth until these beings came out of the sky. They landed. They were reptilian humanoid, and they took over. This is also correlated in Hawaii. Exact same story from Hawaii to Africa, saying that our whole political system, money, the whole concept of money, we never had money before that. We bartered and trade. Everything came from these reptilian human hybrid beings that came from the sky and just literally took over by force this planet.
You know, in looking at this and thinking about how this is really sinking into our culture, this understanding of that there are different controllers out there. Mary says a 12-year-old student told me this week schools were designed as indoctrination to train humans to be factory slaves. And she's saying that these 12-year-olds are having this insight. And I'm really glad Mary is there to witness this, because that gives me a lot of hope. This is starting to penetrate in society deeper than what we're being told. I think YT just, we have the views, we have people, but they're not suggesting our channel anymore. And I think it is, we bring up some oddities, some truths that are very uncomfortable sometimes.
Well, they know who we are more than we know who we are. And that's just the fact. Peter, thank you so much, brother, for your support. Peter, again, has been with us for years, and we've had many sessions together. I saw a great comment, too. It was Dreaming in Puerto Rico said, you remember the movie The Mask? Well, how about the truth behind that? Because they've given us everything in the movies. It was a green mask, too. Yeah, and definitely his face took on a more reptilian type of thing. I mean, I think at one time he had a forked tongue coming out.
And his energy, he did.
His energy changed.
That
So,
really good.
yeah, I mean, that's a great observation. Dark Planet shows you flat Earth. When you think of Dark City.
Dark City, yes. Oh my gosh, that was a zinger. So now you got us going. We're going to start looking into some things here. And this is what makes these fun, because we don't follow a script. We don't pull things up and talk about them in advance. These are more channeled types of videos that we do. Mike doesn't spend a lot of time. When he puts together a video, he knows exactly, like his higher self knows exactly what it's going to do. And so this is fun. When something comes up in chat and then we want to expand on it more, this is like, and how old is this movie too?
Oh, that's 1994.
Right? That's a long time, you guys. That's a real long time.
It's 31 years ago. How about this? Remember Mortal Kombat? Reptile. Again, it's always been like right in front of us. Some movies more than others. But it is the reality. And it's just they laugh at it.
In comparison.
It was fun. It was fun.
It was fun.
And okay, how about the baddie? Now, doesn't he look even more reptilian when you look at the baddie? I mean, that's really getting very Draco-ish.
With the red eyes, those red eyes get me every time.
Yeah, and in Anakin, and Star Wars and all that, Anakin's eyes start glowing kind of like a gold, I think, or an amber type of color. It's always been right in front of our face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jim Carrey has done a lot of movies that are awakening. I know he went through some things where he really exposed a lot, and then he went through some pretty bad heartache and tragedy. I think that's what happens with these guys. They can't sit on it forever, and then when they do say something, they know they're saying it at a loss. But sometimes I feel for them, it's they just can't sit on it, or they're going to be the ones that it eats their heart up.
So in Dark City, you have these beings that dress like in 1920s or 30s, dark coats, hats. They're very pale. Turns out that there's actually aliens in there reanimating the human bodies to appear human. And so, and then what do? They do things like this. Now, I think this is an allegory where they make people sleep. Every night they make people sleep, and the sun never comes up. It's always dark. And the people fall asleep, and here it is, a couple that fell asleep in their soup. But then they wake up and they go from being poor to rich. Why are they doing this? Because they're analyzing the human soul, because they don't have a soul like ours. And they are trying to change circumstances to figure out what is it that makes us us. This is so cool, in so many ways. So dead on. And here you go. Look at the circle, right? This is basically Deuteronomy 32:8. This is dividing the earth up again amongst the Elohim in a way, that you could relate that to it. It's also Plato. I mean, when he did Timaeus and then he did Critias, those are fabulous works that give away a lot of the secrets. When the gods decided to go behind the scenes so that we didn't know, that they were still there. They seem to have disappeared, but did they really? No, they're just watching. They're just watching, and then they realize they're on a ship. They're not on a planet like they think. They're not even on Earth. They're on a ship. And, he ends up taking control. This is kind of the Neo of this movie, because he has abilities like they do. In fact, his abilities are superior to theirs. And he takes over the ship and he makes it all, kind of paradise and heavenly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's our Nina the Mystic. Please go over there and sub to Nina's channel. She's going to be great. We're going to help her grow. She's an amazing person, bringing truth out that we all need. And we small channels, we really need to stick together. Us, Wayne, Nina, everyone who's trying to get the truth out there in different ways. We're being subdued because we don't want to always go along with the plan. There's things with YouTube that they want us to do, and we just, morally, we just can't do them. And I think we're paying for that a little bit. And is it a smart financial decision? Well, it's a decision we make with our soul, because I have to continue to live with myself. So yeah, support the smaller channels, please. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, Nina says it'll be next Sunday that the show that we did will appear. And actually, Cindy and I, even though it feels like we haven't made as many videos lately to us, but it feels like we've been working nonstop.
Yeah.
It's been real busy for us, and trying to keep up with a whole bunch of different things rolling. Secret government UFO program reveals paranormal events. And this goes into, for 27 months, Las Vegas was UFO Central. Well, it's kind of always been, you got the extraterrestrial highway and everything. And
yeah, we're doing good. I'm just watching, they let us bounce up to 160 in chat. Mike says something different, but I'm glad to see a lot of people in here. This really warms my heart, because it's been a struggle, and we appreciate the support. Without you guys, there is no us. Thank you.
Well, if we weren't able to do this, we would always look for some way to contribute to humanity and the awakening of humanity. That's just why we're here. That's our purpose, and we understand our purpose. So that's the thing too, that so many people don't understand their purpose. I think, again, with almost pretty much every single person, I bet you, that's in this chat, unless some agents are undercover, you guys are what we would call starseed light workers. You're here to shift the paradigm on the planet. And you might just be waking up to that fact that your whole purpose for incarnating is to shift things to a more positive timeline for everybody here on Earth. There's been a lot of people that have done a lot of good over the years, trying to expose things going on. Great comments that were put out there about, you talk about crop circles just 10, 20 years ago. You get a lot of people that think you're a lunatic. Everything is going to be out in the open. I would venture to say by 2030 for sure. That's why we have these dates for these agendas, because they know they only have so much time to achieve what they want to achieve. And what are they trying to achieve? They're just trying to guard their resources. That's all. Keep what they have going. That's all they're trying to do. With us, it's the opposite. We want to awaken humans to the possibility that, man, we could do so much better than we've seen done on this planet.
I know, and thank you so much, Susan and Peter. You guys, make sure you guys all stay to the end, because we're going to do what we do, and we're going to have dings. So please hang in there.
So George Knapp, investigative journalist, he's done so much to cover things like the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System, the Applications Program. He's done a lot of great things over the years. Just think about all the politicians that have been interviewed all the years, and all the people that have come forward after leaving military service, or perhaps, scientific employment with certain agencies or certain corporations. What's the difference between a company and a corporation? Neither. I mean, between a country, I should say, and a corporation, there's really not much different when we really get down to it. And what you see here is just so much revelation coming out now that, it's just, you can't put enough fingers in the holes in the dike that's holding back disclosure. It's impossible. It's all collapsing. You got, again, Skinwalker Ranch, Robert Bigelow's thing, that is a portal. That's a portal there. There's real interactions that have happened there. But here's the big revelation. There's portals all over the place. And probably there's a lot of people that don't realize they've had encounters. And, maybe they've just, kind of thought, nah, that was just my mind tricking me. I didn't really see anything. That was just a dream. There was no entity here by my bed, etc., etc.
I think people do, out of fear, a lot of times they do rationalize that away, and that's perfectly normal. But when it's real, you just keep going back to it, and you try to continue to rationalize again and again and again until you sit down and start looking at other situations and other people's comments and experiences, and then you're able to start picking yours apart and accept it for what it is. I think there's a huge issue of acceptance out there when people have paranormal experiences. They're not really paranormal. It's just outside of your scope of things that you have been taught to be true through our 3D science, and our 3D language, and our 3D ability to perceive. Oh my gosh. And thank you so much, John and Jen. No, it's plenty. We appreciate it so much. I know where you guys are at, and that means the world to us. Thank you so much. Prayers headed your way.
Yeah. And, again, a lot of what we share is from direct experience in more ways than one. This is also saying the connection between UFO encounters and paranormal experiences isn't anything new. They go back to 47 in the modern era. In reality, I've always been interested in all these things. Goes back to being a little kid. I read the Bible all the way through at age 11, but I was also at ages 10 through 12 gobbling up all sorts of scientific literature that I couldn't understand at that age, and also studying yoga at that age, and I couldn't understand. I understood very little what I was reading, but I was still reading it nonetheless, because it was just, an overwhelming desire to discover all the mysteries. And I had already unusual encounters, and you look for answers when you have these unusual encounters. Again, I do think that there's way more percentage of the population than most people realize that have had paranormal encounters. So here's the big reveal. What we've been talking about, it doesn't mean it's either A or B. It's usually the answer is going to be D or E, whichever one says all of the above. So when we talk about, is this an extraterrestrial or is it interdimensional? Is it terrestrial in any way, shape, or form? Is it inner Earth? Is it the being that's coming from under the ocean? The reality is there's all those things. There are demons. There are angels. But that doesn't mean that every single thing we encounter is a demon or an angel. No, some are very, very different. It's again understanding what words we're using as a definition for certain, ideas, thoughts. And what we're doing is we're using words that we don't even perhaps understand what their real meaning is, because meanings change over time. This is on the Joe Rogan show. Every single reptile is a monster that's here. That's Joe Rogan. Talking about, there's a lot coming out now about the reptilian side of things. You could see, we've covered all this so many times, showing these carvings are pretty, they're pretty similar. People saw these beings. They made note of it. This is why in the Bible it says you'll have no more graven images, because the Bible in that particular line is trying to keep from us the fact that these are reptilian human beings that are manipulating our reality behind the scenes. And it's been going on for thousands of years. But they're not all just reptilian. No, there's many different beings. And they're not all bad. There's some good beings too out there.
It's just that things shift when people find out the truth. And that's, I feel, what we're trying to prepare people for, is that there is going to be a truth told to us. I mean, even us, as much as we do know, there's going to be a level of shock when things happen. It's one thing to know and to realize, okay, this thing is coming down, things are coming to light. But then when it actually happens, it's one thing to think about buying a new car or a new horse or a new cow. It's another thing when you get it and you bring it home. Life changes, and that's where we're at. And that's where we're trying to help people with their spiritual practice, if that's what they need to do, because that's something that cannot be taken away from you. So when you're shaken to your core, you can always go to your spiritual practice.
Yeah. I've shared with you guys that December 2017, I woke up to a tall gray trying to sabotage my health. And, there's things that have been hidden that are bad, or we could perceive as bad. We could definitely perceive it as challenging, not too nice. And then there's things that are actually really, really good. And, that's the thing I want to get really across. When you look again, and we encourage people to check out more about us, we'll be putting out a video about us and what we do on a regular basis, because we have worked with thousands of people across the entire world, Australia, New Zealand, Africa, Europe, Asia, South and North America. And many people we were able to help. It again depends a lot on the higher self, with things that have been labeled by Western science as, impossibilities. And please do, again, check out some of these testimonials. I had 1,000 testimonials on Facebook taken away from me, that they closed down my Facebook because I was posting too much natural health alternatives and too much, energy work that they didn't like. And so they took it away from me. This one I always think about. She came in and, this was one of the most key people I've ever worked on, because she was 59. She had been hit by a car when she was 29, sent flying across the road, and it literally changed her whole bone structure. One shoulder was like a good 5 or 6 inches higher than the other, and she was a partial hunchback. And she hadn't been able to turn her head to the left for like 30 years. And, after I worked on her the first time, I sent her off to her chiropractor, which she would see twice a week, typically to just give her some relief. Well, this time when she went, he went to adjust her. She got a huge adjustment. She literally spit up and something was in her throat that was lodged that came out. And, over time, we saw each other for a full year. Her whole structure straightened out, which I didn't even think myself was possible, honestly. But again, what can be done is so far beyond what they will tell you. This is a reality in which we have a lot more control than they want you to understand.
You know, in that case, it was Mike was working on them in person, but we do our work right now in you know, the higher dimensions using quantum, and it is extremely effective. We've had some really amazing things happen, and that's how Mike and I got together. It was a tumor that was that it was dissolved. You know, that I had a surgery, and it was so very painful, and my part of my face was actually paralyzed because of this tumor. And it came back, and I didn't want to go through the surgery. It was so painful. The surgery was so painful. I shuddered. So I was going to try anything. And that's when the energy work that he did distance the first time actually dissolved it. I went to go see a specialist a week later. We were going to talk surgery, and it was gone. So that really made me a believer real quick. Then I wanted to learn to do what he does. So he's been teaching me ever since.
And she's been teaching me too. So yeah, I mean, and we know we have friends that have overcome stage 4 cancer, and they did it naturally almost every single time. You know, this is part of where, you know, it's game over for the system when humans understand that. Yeah, our potential is enormous. It's well beyond what most of us have been brought up thinking. This big statement here, they view us as containers. Bob Lazar told Joe the weirdest thing he found at S4 was a thick file on religion. Yes, again, because the dogmatic side of things, there is a creator, absolutely, and there is a source of everything. We're all part of that. We're all part of that. We are all unique fractals. But viewing us as containers, this is part of the part of what gets twisted and misunderstood. You know, the body is a container, but you're not the body. You have this body, you utilize the body, but you're the consciousness behind the body. And again, this is basic Hinduism 101. You're not the body. You're not even really the mind. You're the pure consciousness. You are the observer. So in that sense, when you start thinking about the term watchers in a biblical sense, yeah, we could be talking about grays watching humans. We could talk about the reptilians watching humans. But in the Bible too, you know, again, I am that I am. That's self-realization 101. When Yeshua says, I and the Father are one, that's basic Hinduism again. And again, you know, we're not brought up in the West really with too much tolerance in reality, if we are very dogmatic, of other ways of looking at things, other traditions. But this is out of the yogic tradition. And really, it's out of all the shamanic traditions too. The indigenous people of the world understand this instinctively. It's only when we get indoctrinated and, you know, they do what they do. And, you know, politically and also religious brainwashing is what they've done to us to keep us divided. There's core truths in all religions. We could see that so clearly. And yet, that's not the part that they focus on. It's on all those little things that divide us, because united, we're unstoppable, but divided, we continue to fall. And that's, you know, part of what has been going on forever. You know, as soon as somebody gives you that, oh, it's just one way, or otherwise you're going to be tortured for all eternity, you know, it's just they're operating out of pain. They're operating out of fear. They haven't really worked through all the indoctrination yet. But it's not too late. We have time to work through all this conditioning. And when certain things are disclosed and they're out there in the open and you could see these things for yourselves, or if you do have the experiences firsthand that you have experienced, well, I mean, that overrules any dogma because you've experienced it for yourself. So they view us as containers. Well, these bodies are ours. Who creates the body? Who creates the body? Well, ultimately, there's an etheric template that is in existence It's created from a higher dimension, a higher density. And when the cells start to go through cellular mitosis and multiply, how do they know what cells to turn into what things so that you actually have a functioning heart, functioning liver, etc., bones, skin? It's all basically on a template that is not on this dimension. It's one dimension, one frequency higher, that the cells go and take form to that template that's been laid out ahead of time. And who did that? Well, in a way, you did. So, again, we are we are our own creators in more ways than one. And again, through every single deed and action that we do, every interaction that we have, through our genetic lineages, a lot of us will choose to go into and incarnate into a particular lineage in order to help all those beings that are maybe at an impasse, are stuck, or there's some sort of trauma that needs to be removed from that lineage for all those souls to move to a higher level. Again, it could be something that the soul decides, hey, I'm going to go into this particular lineage in order to help people on this particular item.
Yeah, and I think the energy from past lifetimes is very accessible to us. So our containers, they might talk about our containers as just that, like a plastic cup, but they contain a lot more information than I think even we realize.
Yes. So, we are operating, again, with these bodies as avatars. So, you might be familiar with the concept of avatars, and taking an incarnation for a particular reason. And, again, the dark side will manipulate things in order to create friction and in order to keep us separated, giving you the idea that, some big demons will come in and take over certain people at key times. Well, that does happen. I mean, this is the reality. These politicians that have been running the show, they're not really running the show. They are being overshadowed by big demonic energies and beings like the reptilians, that it's just unfortunately their nature to do the things they do, but they can't overcome. And that's the other thing I wanted to get across, is even these dark entities can't overcome. When you look at this again, a lot of people are pointing to this as the ultimate disclosure so far, because you got physical bodies that they've come out and said, these are reptilian hybrids. They're real. They're not paper mache.
No, they're not. They keep finding and kind of pulling up more and more information. I think this is really interesting, and I hope it continues to go on, because we need to know. The more people that know, I think the softer the ultimate disclosure will be.
Yeah, absolutely. This is it's pretty wild to be living in these times, but I can't imagine living in any other times when it comes to pick a time that you want to be there. And, this would be pretty much, I would say, this is probably the biggest drop in the cliff on the roller coaster ride that you could have. Coming into Earth at the turning of a Kali Yuga into a Bronze Age, that's not for those people with weak stomachs.
No, it's not. No.
Absolutely. Here you go. Government intelligence officer assigned to secret UFO investigation said wolf-like creature that walked on two legs appeared at his East Coast home afterwards. When you start to understand what's really going on, this is a rocket scientist who directed top secret investigations into UFOs. Dr. James Lakatsky, intelligence analyst, previously with the Defense Intelligence Agency, revealed during his time investigating UFOs, many witnesses recalled paranormal experiences after seeing the objects. We realize that people who openly say, I observed a UFO up close. All right, anybody out there, if you've observed a UFO, please do. Just type in UFO in the chat room and share with us. Or if you're watching this after the fact, please do leave a comment and just put out there UFO. If you have seen something that you believe was not just one of our military, something that was real and truly, truly perhaps under other intelligent operations. Well, when people had this type of experience, what happened? It seems like they had other paranormal experiences. Why would that be? Let me ask Cindy.
Well, it's just all of these experiences are something that I think we're here to experience for ourselves. And like the chat is nonstop with UFO. I love it, and that's why we're all hanging out together.
I think one of the things that happens is, again, there is a transmission of energy that can occur between a being that is of a higher frequency, and sometimes beings can be of a higher frequency but still not necessarily be what we would call angels. But the energy can trigger an awakening. And, I know we've triggered awakenings in thousands of people. That's just a fact. I noticed it. I had one person that was in her mid-late 60s that came to me for energy work and other help on certain issues. And, she couldn't sense energy when I was first working on her. By the time like a year and a half had passed, 2 years, she not only could sense energy, I mean, that happened a lot earlier, but I actually took her all the way through Reiki Master Teacher, and she was seeing her own clients and doing very well for herself, doing energy work on people herself. So, the working on her triggered her ability to not only sense energy, feel it herself, but also to ultimately gather it and send it into other people in order to help them heal. So, and this was, I'd say she was maybe like 67, something like that. So, we have one of our students right now who's a shining example at 86 years old. Just an amazing example. And so strong and so positive and so full of possibility. It's never too old to learn new tricks.
No, it's not. It's not. You're never too old. I think you're really only too old to keep making the same mistake. But you're always able to start over. And thank you so much, Miss Terry. We appreciate that. Do stick around at the end where we do attune. And for those of you that help with that energy transfer, it is very much appreciated. And, it sponsors the channel. It allows us to keep going and putting together this content and having people come together like you guys. So this is really, really beautiful. Thank you.
So in this article, they're labeling it the hitchhiker effect, where they seem to come in contact with paranormal phenomena long after having some initial triggering event. That's really interesting. Some people saw balls of light, shadowy figures, even creepy creatures. One investigator was plagued by mysterious orbs when he returned to his home on the East Coast. This is somebody that was assigned to the Nevada test site. So, right across from where we lived before. So when he got back to his house on the East Coast, he described what he saw as a wolf-like creature that walked on two legs. What the heck? Did he get on a train or plane and come to Washington? Ah, man. And again, this is Dr. James Lakatsky who was talking about it. Again, a scientist working for the most advanced, one of the most advanced secret government operations that we have going. They're just sharing this. Again, there's many reasons for this. And we could get into that too. Non-locality. Again, there's a lot in quantum physics that is like straight out of the ancient Hindu texts. And again, it's just how the universe works.
So when you're on a journey, I do believe we go through several awakenings throughout our life, but there is a point where things are different. It's a special kind of awakening, and people start to integrate a spiritual practice. And what I keep hearing is that they start having strange experiences at home. But when we work on someone and we activate their internal wiring, we bring it, up a level, that light that is inside of their body becomes brighter. Now, if you have traumas and tears and bumps and bruises in your auric field, that light that we upgraded, it will leak out. And in that leaking, beings do notice you, and they might want to come up for a closer look. And this would explain a lot of the interesting, strange things people go through during an awakening. You're not calling in anything bad. It's just those holes in your energy field. They're going to get attention. And that's why I highly suggest people get that practice in place, because you're different. You've changed to the world around you. You look different to so many entities. They are going to come in and say hello, and it could be quite disturbing. And I don't like to just activate people and let them go away. I like if it's possible to go on for a while and see how their life is going, because it's a huge change. Had I known that on the first time that I went through this, it would have really made a world of difference if I knew what kind of changes that were going to happen. But I had to wing it. I did it all on my own, and everything that I learned is just from me. It's from Cindy, and thank goodness I'm with Mike. But when I went through my awakening and I went up in the ship and I had to walk in, all the things, my life changed. I was married to Mike 9 months later after the walk-in. Go figure. That is crazy. My life totally changed. I wish I would have known. So I don't, like to just leave people to go on it alone. I like to have some type of, idea of what they're going through in case they have a question. Maybe I can help.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, many of us here, we've been connected in past lives, and that's why there's this familiarity with the soul tribe. Again, we tend to work together. And here you go. This is straight out of was it Ripley with Aliens, where she goes into this type of gigantic robot. Look at the size of this thing. There's a person in there. So yeah, this has been here the whole time. It's not like this just got developed now. Now it's just being shown to humans. So when she goes to battle the predators, not the predator, but the xenomorphs, right? She's using something like this. And then we've also seen this in Avatar. Again, this is because this has been in play for thousands of years, if not longer. But we're just being allowed now to see these things at this point in time. Very, very, Ken, you can't get any more interesting, more fascinating than what we have going on right now.
That's, it is pretty frightening. It goes back to those Transformers, robots in disguise, but they're not in disguise anymore. So things are opening up to a whole new level. And I believe as Three Eye Atlas gets closer, things are going to continue to change. It's up to us for the better. I think we control our response to everything. So a lot of this lies in our hands.
Yeah, absolutely. These are fascinating times. And I was thinking in my head before of how many different ETs can I say I actually saw. And I could come up with 5 different types immediately, but actually it's more than that. It's way more. It's fascinating when you actually do see this. Now, in the UK, there's a story out of the UK about some sort of legal requirement for certain pizza bases, breads, and dough to contain a synthetic folic acid. Wow, that's disconcerting. There's so much that really is being done at the moment here in the U.S. to change the ways some things have been going when it comes to food and certain things in the health and medical industries. And yeah, we see a lot of negative, but we do see some positives that's coming too. So you got to be very, very aware of processed food. And, this is why we like to do our own food. When we went to do the West Coast trip that we did last month, that was the first time we ate stuff that we didn't make in I don't know how long, forever it seems. And I know it's challenging at first, especially if you're working 40, 50, 60 hours for a company. I know I've been there, done that for decades. But today I'll share with you guys, we have some lentil madras curry completely from scratch, and then I'm going to make some naan using chia and garlic and cilantro. So we do a lot of cilantro. I love cilantro. We do tons of garlic. And as I know Diana was talking about a detox, heavy metal detox, cilantro is really good for that. We always have to be thinking in terms of what am I eating today? What am I doing today exercise-wise that's going to help my body clean the toxins out, because as quick as we clean them out, they keep loading them in.
Well, it's really important too. I mean, you want to be doing that, but definitely take breaks. You need your body to be able to adjust and assimilate. So if you're just starting out on a detox journey, I would say, make that effort a few times a week and just let your body rest in between. I think the biggest mistake I see is people detox too much too fast, and that can have some extremely adverse effects. You really want to approach that with kid gloves if it's something you've never done.
2 generations ago, U.S. kids were dewormed before school. Think about that. You don't hear that now. And then they talk about humans not getting parasites. Everybody has parasites. It's a never-ending war. My water, that I have right here, right now, was have in it. It's got, some organic lemon juice in it. It's filtered water, and I have wormwood in there. I always put 2 or 3 drops of wormwood in it, and just get used to drinking that throughout the day, because I realize, we're constantly being exposed to parasites. So wormwood, cloves, what's the other one? Black walnut hull. There's so many things you could do.
There's all kinds of things. And a huge thank you to Miss Elantra. Make sure you're hanging out at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, parasites didn't disappear. No, they upped their game. And when I think about this, it makes me think about another post I saw where somebody was saying, in like 10 years from now, people won't be saying, well, I got to find an MD. They were saying, I got to find a good DO, a doctor of osteopathy. I think you got to find a good ND, a naturopath, an herbalist. Traditional Chinese medicine is another good way to go. Medical Qigong. These are the ways of the future. But I do think a good osteopath can be a great person to go. You have to interview. You have to really interview. How much time do you really get out of your MD if you have an MD? Unfortunately, they're set up so that they have to see like 12 people an hour, literally 10, 12 people an hour. How much attention could you possibly give to a person in that system? The system doesn't make sense except for when you look at profit.
No, yeah, they need that profit, and they have to keep things perpetuating however they need to. And people that are in the business are truly lovely, wonderful, hardworking people who care about healing others. But I think the problem lies in when they get in there, they have all these expenses that they have to pay for school, but they can only do things a certain way. There's just so much red tape, and it makes them just nauseated, just so sick to have to do things that the way they do. I do believe they're wonderful healers, and I know a couple of them who are the best people on, some of the best people on the planet, just absolutely wonderful, wonderful people who want to truly heal, but they can't unless they do it a certain way. So I think it's definitely some type of a situation that I wouldn't want to be in. And Mike and I are kind of in it a little bit to an extent. We have to be very cautious and very careful about how we help, because we don't follow those protocols. And if you don't follow certain protocols, you can get in trouble.
Rosebud Atkins, growing up on a farm, the animals and family were wormed every 6 months. My dad had his own formula. Boy, the things your dad could tell us. I'm sure, it would be just awesome to share some of that info. Crushed raw garlic, absolutely. Cindy's always doing that. Hey, there's Renee. Good to see you, sweet sister Renee.
Hi, Miss Renee.
And the way the system is set up, as Jen's saying, insurance for malpractice. We really, this system, it's not really fixable. We're going to have to come up with some new ideas. That's the reality. But I think there's going to be plenty of ideas, and we could just really look back to the deep past to get other ideas. When you look over into what is today's Pakistan and India area, you will find remnants of cities, towns, where they didn't have a standing military. There was no inclination of war being in the programming of the people at that time. And they were very peaceful. The other thing is they had no rulers. They had no central authority. That's a totally different culture that we just can't seem to comprehend. In fact, they always want you to look for a future king that will lead the way. But whenever you elevate one individual above all others and view them as infallible, that's a recipe for disaster. That's what history shows us. Even when people are, noble in intention and deed, power tends to corrupt. We need something different. As our Susan Donahue has said, a wise council of elders that maybe changes every year. And maybe there's absolutely no pay incentive involved and no way to take bribes, no way to take any sort of incentives to, sway things one way or another for individuals that will attempt to bribe. Again, we need a whole new way of doing things. I think it's buried in the sands. I think it's buried in the dirt. It's literally underneath our feet. We're walking on top of these civilizations that were here before the current dark matrix came into being.
Mm-hmm. It's in our DNA. We know what to do. We all know what to do. I think it's frustrating for us because we know things are not the way that they should be. It's like going against the grain, definitely going against the grain in our soul. Yeah, Cindy's going to give us some dings, and this is, again, let's see if this is going to work or not. Maybe not. When you look at all the pyramids, for instance, the pyramids are anchoring energies into the planet. And there's so many pyramids all around the planet. Again, the planet that we know was taken from the largest remnant of what was Tiamat, which literally had ancient dragon energy, but wise dragon energy, not necessarily the draconian type of system energy, if you know what I mean. Oh, man, our history is just mind-boggling. Look at that cliff. Look at where he's walking. And look at all the rocks. We've walked on some cliffs like this, but they were maybe 20, 30 feet over the ground. It looks like he's up hundreds of feet, maybe even 1,000 feet. Holy cow. Why would people put places of residence in a spot like this? So Bronze Giant, I enjoy Bronze Giant, one of my favorites over on Twitter. What led people to seek out dwellings like this? Predators isn't a valid answer because no known animal can reach these dwellings. Well, anywhere a human could go, a panther could go. I mean, but beyond that, the predators that we see and know at this time, well, they're not all the predators that are out there. Nope, they're not. So we're going to do some dings. I want to say a huge thank you first to Susan, Peter, Jen, Terry, Alantra. You guys, we really appreciate the extra help, and everyone else in chat giving us a thumbs up and participating in chat with truth and positivity and love.
And anybody that wants or needs extra healing, please make mention now. And we'll take some time to send positive energy to everybody that needs it.
I do want to say an extra special something for Steve and Lori, and for those who are helping them with this situation, that they do receive the extra support that's needed during this time. So yes, definitely put it in there in chat, and we're going to do some tunes and send some energy to everyone who's in need right now. This world is it's a pretty crazy place. And I did bring my our dearest Mama Jan sent me what she calls an angel wing crystal. So I do have that angel wing. I just happened to grab that right before. So the angel wing is going to help us out here. So take a deep breath and focus on the breath. Find a focus point. Think very positive thoughts right now. Think happy thoughts. Here we go. And I'm going to do a little bit of a patterning here. Now with this tuning fork, you're not going to hear it, but you might feel it. You might very well feel it. So I'm going to use the angel wing to pattern this with my weighted tuning fork. So take another deep breath. Here we go. We're patterning the universe with love, understanding, support, kindness. We're there for each other. We support each other. And this is the world I would like to try to manifest with you guys. Thank you so much for helping us with this energy transfer that we're doing today. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful, wonderful day. Good night's rest, warm food in your tummy, and a roof over your head. Stay blessed.
Loka samasta sukhi no bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy and free, and may my thoughts, words, actions, and deeds contribute to that freedom and happiness. As always, guys, much love, source bless, and namaste.
Namaste.